Let's talk about racism. Now, I know as a white, straight, Christian male, people might doubt my credibility to talk about this issue. But the reality is, we all have a responsibility to weigh in on this dialogue. And especially as Christians, it's up to us to lend a gospel-centered perspective to this dialogue that's going on in our culture. As Christians, we need to strive to meet people right where they're at, right in their daily life, and show them just how much God loves them. You shouldn't need to say, regardless of color, race, religion, sexual identity, because this should permeate literally every interaction that we have with people, with our children, with our coworkers, with the checkout person at the store. Everyone should know just how much God loves them, and it's our responsibility to help them have that experience in all of our interactions. Now, something that makes this challenging is that our brains are wired to have prejudices. Our base wiring is very tribal. There's research to show that our brains can only think in terms of tribes of about 150 people or so, which makes it mentally hard for us to extend out beyond our small groups. And because of this, our brains are constantly scanning to see who is in our group and who is not in our group. And it's easy for our brains to do this regarding color, because if someone looks substantially different from us, well, then it's easy to say that, they're probably not in our tribe. But we actually do this all over the place. We do it at work. Are you in the tribe that agrees with what the boss says? Or are you in the tribe that is rebelling against the boss? We even do this among our friends. Part of this is the function of gossip, to see who fits in and who doesn't. Seeing if people are in your tribe and then cutting out people who aren't in your tribe. Now, what's crazy about this is we extend this prejudicial thinking even to people who are in our own group. So think about this for a second. Imagine you're on a trip to Europe and you run into a fellow American. It's amazing how instant a camaraderie develops. You can say this person is in your tribe, even though back in the good old USA, there's probably zero chance that you would ever want to hang out with that person, in your daily life. Now, on the other hand, we divide our tribes even into little micro tribes. So you probably know a lot of people at church who share like 90% of your values. You go to the same parish, you go to the same school, you live in the same neighborhood, probably vote for the same people or whatever, but that family is too liberal, or that family is too conservative. Those guys hang out with so-and-so, and we don't really associate with those types. Our brains are always scanning to see who fits into the tribe and who does not. And starting with race is an easy thing to do because of, obviously, the color of our skin is immediately obvious. Now, we're all fighting these internal prejudices. Most people don't want to be racist. Being prejudiced is a universal human experience, and because of this, it makes it something we all need to work together on. Now, one thing I've noticed is that anger can sort of get in the way here. Now, before you get angry at me for judging people's anger about race-based violence, let me just say that the anger is completely understandable. And it's just. St. Thomas Aquinas taught that anger is an emotion that seeks to restore justice. And truly, justice needs to be had for those who've been discriminated against because of racism, and certainly justice needs to be had for those who've done harm through racism. That being said, anger is a surface level emotion. And because of that, it's not capable of healing these underlying wounds. It's not capable of depth. Anger is this natural reaction to a perceived injustice. And on its own, anger has its limitations. So when we cling to it too tightly, it only reinforces our tribal mentalities. It pushes people away instead of bringing people together. As Christians, we're in this unique position to respond to this specific issue. A gospel-centered perspective and approach turns tribalism on its head. So think about the Old Testament Jews. They were pretty darn tribal, right? You read the Old Testament and they are literally invading people who live across the river from them. They cast out the Samaritans and made them feel like just total outcasts. And so Jesus' ministry is completely applicable to the racism battle we find ourselves in today. Now, one beautiful thing Jesus did was he was able to demonstrate that to others that we're all one family, we all are in one tribe, and yet at the same time, he acknowledged people's difference. He didn't whitewash anybody. He spoke to Samaritans as Samaritans. He spoke to Romans as Romans. He talked to men as men and women as women. He didn't ignore people's differences. Actually, he honored them. And the only way we're going to succeed against this racism battle is through the imitation of Jesus. The fight isn't just in society. It's actually within ourselves. Our tribal brains aren't going away anytime soon. We have to bring down these systems that reinforce prejudice, but it actually starts at taking a deep look at ourselves, how we contribute to the problem. We have to remember that every single human is handcrafted by God. Our biological parents, they gave us our genetic makeup, but it's actually God himself who gives us our soul. He forms it, he creates it. And so if we have disdain for somebody, that means that we have disdain for one of God's personal works of art. And if it's true that each soul is handcrafted by God, we've got to be intentional about honoring that fact. Truly, every one of our interactions should be directed at showing people just how much God loves them, even if we disagree with them, even if we don't like them. People want to be respected, and people also just want to be noticed. And we could sweep away so much of the pain that people feel, so much of the suffering that is in our country, almost overnight. But the hard thing is, the problem is it starts with each individual soul. We can only do it one person at a time, brick by brick. And we show people just how much God loves them through our own treatment to them. So maybe try an experiment. Try to be intentional today with every person you interact with, to be kind to them, to just simply notice them. When you're in line at the grocery store, say the checker's name. Make eye contact with people. This makes people feel loved and it makes them feel noticed, but even more importantly, it actually gradually reshapes our own tribal brain. And here's the last thing, maybe the most important thing. We can't call ourselves pro-life and just stand by while racism rages on. Even though our brains are tribal, we can't necessarily control our initial prejudicial reaction. The reality is that racism is a sin. It's wrong, and it causes massive amounts of pain for people on a daily basis. And so we can't sit by and be accomplices to this. We have to stand up. And as Christians, this needs to be manifest in everything that we do. In how we vote, in what institutions we support, and especially in how we treat others and how we honor the God-given, beautiful creation that he's put before us.